Pakistan is currently experiencing a severe economic crisis that could cause the nation to collapse completely. The country's currency, the rupee, has plummeted 16.5% against the US dollar in just a few short weeks. At $3.09 billion, the central bank reserves are at their lowest point in more than 20 years. Due to the nation's extreme inflation, most people cannot buy basic products and services, fueling growing poverty and inequality. To make matters worse, debt servicing and loan repayments, projected to total a staggering $23 billion, account for about 40% of the budget. However, this catastrophe didn't develop quickly. It results from many years of disastrous economic and monetary policies, corrupt politics, and lousy leadership. These elements combine to form a poisonous concoction that puts Pakistan, a country with a population of over 200 million, on the verge of utter default. However, the situation has a deeper insidious cause that has hardly been acknowledged or handled. The military's engagement in politics and business greatly impacts the nation's economy. As a result, the country now faces political instability, degraded democracy, and an unclear future ridden with an economic crisis. In Pakistan, the economic crisis has significantly impacted both urban and rural areas, with the poorest citizens being the hardest hit. The cost of basic goods, including gasoline, has skyrocketed by an astounding 80%. People are being forced to wait in lengthy lines and even endanger their lives to purchase subsidized food items, the most popular of which is flour. The terrible impacts of the monsoon flooding last summer, which forced 8 million people to leave their homes and cost an estimated $30 billion in damage and lost output, have worsened the issue. Tens of thousands of people are still without a house. The current economic crisis in Pakistan has been considerably exacerbated by the country's dependency on imports and trade deficit, economic mismanagement including fraud, bad leadership, and underfunding of vital infrastructure. These problems have reduced Pakistan's competitiveness and make it challenging for the nation to draw in foreign investment, which has resulted in a slowdown in economic growth. Unfortunately, the military's presence in Pakistan may make matters slightly worse. Military spending has played a significant role in Pakistan's history, accounting for most of the country's annual budget. Due to the lack of funds available for important social services like healthcare and education, social growth has been stunted. The current economic crisis has only made this trend worse. Pakistan's military spending currently accounts for about 19% of the country's overall budget, or a whopping $11.3 billion. Even though the military employs less than 2% of the nation's workforce, the national budget of Pakistan has traditionally included a sizable amount for defense spending, and this year was no exception. 2.1% of Pakistan's GDP was allocated to defense spending, an increase of 11% over the 1.37 trillion rupee budget from the previous year. The rise was made to counteract the nation's 10-year high inflation rate of 12%. The government ignored inflation while giving cash to other government departments, but established an exemption for the armed services. The defense budget comprised nearly 16% of the entire government expenditure for the year. Employee-related costs such as salary and travel totaled 667.5 billion rupees, while operating and physical asset costs were 411 billion and 368.9 billion respectively. Unofficial sources claim that the army received 47% of the entire budget, the Pakistan Air Force 21%, and the Navy 11%, even though the distribution to the three services was not listed. Between 50 and 80 billion rupees were also provided through the Armed Forces Development Initiative. The security scenario is somewhat unsettling. Despite Pakistan's economy's status and the withdrawal of fuel and energy subsidies to satisfy IMF conditions, defense spending will stay low. The chances of improving relations with India are unlikely due to their ongoing hostility towards Pakistan and Prime Minister Modi's refusal to resolve the Kashmir issue. Prime Minister Modi even forbade Pakistan from attending the Dialogue on Global Development, which China sponsors. The goal is to maintain a deployed and alert military in Pakistan, further harming the nation's economy. While the world's attention is on the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, Pakistan's leadership is occupied with major internal issues, including political, economic, and strategic ones. Numerous socio-political issues have arisen as a result of the militarization of the state, affecting not only Pakistan, but the entire Southeast Asian area. Some claim that the army now owns the nation rather than the other way around due to its increased wealth and power. Furthermore, Pakistan has mostly pursued austerity measures that have increased gasoline prices and reduced spending on housing, health, and education. The disadvantaged and marginalized sections of society have suffered as a result. The short-term fixes might comfort Pakistan's economic planners. Still, the fundamental issues of unequal resource distribution and low productivity will persist for some time. Even Pakistan's defense minister admitted that the country's political and military elite are largely impervious to the economic catastrophe. This further emphasizes how unevenly the recession is affecting society's outcast groups. The already precarious economic position of the nation is being made worse by the absence of political will to confront the crisis' underlying causes and the ruling elite's distorted objectives. The stability of Pakistan and the entire region may be severely impacted if this trend continues. The military places its interests above those of the general public, which can result in policies that favor a few people at the expense of the majority. Existing inequality may be exacerbated by this lack of representation, resulting in societal discontent. The military's political participation may lead to an uncertain future for the nation. This is because military involvement in politics can erode public confidence in the government and threaten the legitimacy of democratic institutions. A lack of foreign investment and a slowdown in economic growth are two social and economic issues that might result from this erosion of trust. The military's involvement in politics in Pakistan has had a significant negative impact on the nation's economic growth. Military operations have hampered economic policy continuity and disrupted the policy-making process, resulting in a lack of clarity and consistency, and making it challenging for firms to make long-term plans. Additionally, military engagement in the industry has bred a culture of crony capitalism that has stifled the expansion of the free market. Pakistan is experiencing a significant problem that will likely persist in the years to come due to rising inflation, a sharp decrease in foreign currency reserves, and mounting debt. Suppose a more all-encompassing approach is not taken to solving the issues. In that case, future governments will likely fail to solve these issues. Human resource development must be prioritized alongside the health and education sectors. In addition to boosting the economy, a well-informed, educated, and pleased population will considerably aid in state defense. An educated populace fosters stability, supports good administration, and is more likely to reject adversarial forces opposed to the state. In an academic setting, even the intelligence input is higher. The GDP of a nation is significantly impacted by its educated populace. The quality of exports and the size of the manufacturing base are impacted as the level of education in the country rises. Pakistan is behind in knowledge-based high-end manufacturing and information technology. With the full support of the military leadership, the previous PTI government developed a comprehensive security strategy on January 14, 2022. This strategy offered strategic guidance in important areas and served as an umbrella document for various sectorial policies. One issue nags at us when considering Pakistan's economic crisis. Who's to blame for wrecking the nation? The military's participation in politics and business has hampered economic development and undermined democratic institutions. On the other hand, the government's poor management and corruption have resulted in huge debt, inflation, and a shortage of basic goods for the populace. What do you think? Who's responsible for the downfall of Pakistan? Let us know what you think in the comments, and like and subscribe if you found the video interesting.